Okay, good evening, everyone. We are very happy to have Professor Krishna Hanumantu from Chennai Math Institute, and he will speak on Seshadri constants. Krishna, you are welcome to start your seminar. It is for 60 minutes, and then we will have question answers.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to talk here. I'm very happy to speak, and I want to talk about Seshadri constants. I want to introduce these basic definitions, properties, some current work on them, and give some recent results that we have proved on this. So I'm completely fine if people ask questions, maybe in the chat or unmute and ask during the talk, or at the end. So let me start first with basic introduction to the notion. So I'm going to fix my setup like this. So X is going to be a non-singular projective variety. So I'm going to, just for simplicity, work with C over C because most of the results are over C, though many of the definitions and concepts questions make sense for positive characteristic also. But I don't want to keep saying this during the talk, so I'll just stick to complex numbers. So if L is a NEF line bundle, so this simply means L dot C is greater than 0 for every curve in C. We define the Seshadri constant. So I'll give you two definitions which are equivalent. So Seshadri constant of the line bundle L at the point X. So this is a triple. So we have three things: a variety, a line bundle, and a point. Seshadri constant is denoted by this symbol. And sometimes when the variety is clear, we omit it and we'll simply write epsilon Lx. So first let me define it like this. So you look at this collection of rational numbers. So you look at all irreducible and reduced curves that pass through the point. So pass through the point X, and you look at the ratio of the intersection of the line bundle with the curve divided by the multiplicity of the curve at that point. So you take the infimum. So because of the NEF assumption, these are all non-negative rational numbers, and we take the infimum. So this is a non-negative real number. So epsilon Lx, it's potentially 0. It's a non-negative real number. So alternately, we can also define. So actually, I want to, before I give you the alternate definition, I don't want to stick to one point. I can talk about multiple points. So for x1 through xr in X, we have, so this is called the single point Seshadri constant because there is a single point. This is called the multi-point Seshadri constant. And actually, I could have just defined this because it already includes that case, but nevertheless, I will write this. So same idea, we take infimum over all curves which contain at least one of the points so that we can have a non-zero denominator here. So we look at curves that meet at least one of the points, look at the ratio of this intersection number divided by sum of the multiplicities of the curve at all the points. And alternately, another way, and this is useful sometimes, you can consider the blow up of X at the points x1 through xr. Let's call this pi. Then this has another avatar. This is simply the supremum of all non-negative real numbers such that pi upper star L minus is nef. Okay, here EIs I should define are the exceptional divisors. Okay, it's not difficult to show that this is actually equivalent to this definition. So these are equivalent to each other. So you pull back. So this is related to, now you see that Seshadri constants are connected to the nef cone. So it's, you take pi upper star L, that will be a nef divisor, but you want to remove this exceptional divisor. The largest multiple of it that you can remove will be the Seshadri constant and remain nef, then that is the Seshadri constant. Okay, I will first talk about a few examples and some properties before I give some motivation for defining these constants. Okay, so let me just start with some very simple examples, or in fact, one example really. So if I take the projective plane P2, and let's take R points, and let's take L to be the O1. Okay, so let's try to compute the Seshadri constant of this. I mean, if R equal to 1, that means you have only 1 point. This is fairly simple to check that. You have epsilon. So I'll write this, but X and L are fixed in this example. So this is easy to check. So if you have 1 point, Seshadri constant has to be 1 very quickly. So if you take a point, you take any curve through that point. So if this is your point and this is the curve. So basically L dot C, L in this case is O1, is nothing but degree of C. And that is always at least multiplicity of C at X. This is a property of curves, plane curves. If you take a curve, its multiplicity at a point is bounded above by the degree. So if you take the ratio of L dot C divided by multiplicity is at least 1. So all the ratios is at least 1. And one of the ratios is 1, because if you take the line, so maybe you can take the line. So if you take L dot C is 1, multiplicity of L at X is 1. So one of the Seshadri ratios, they're called. One of the Seshadri ratio is 1, and every other Seshadri ratio is at least 1, which is exactly the proof that it is equal to 1. Now let's look at more interesting cases. If R equal to 2, we fix 2 points. Okay. Now, of course, you can take the line through 2 points. So Seshadri ratio, I'll call it SR, will be the degree of the line, which is 1, divided by the sum of the multiplicities. Both points are on the line, and of course, there's smooth points. So multiplicity is 1 for each, so that is 1 by 2. And one can prove easily using, for example, Bezout theorem. Implies similar argument. So basically, this degree greater than multiplicity kind of argument. If C is any curve, passing through at least one of the points, then different from this line, C dot L is greater than multiplicity. Okay, so, and C dot L is of course L dot C, which is the degree of C. So this means that, so Seshadri ratio is greater than 1 for all curves different from L. So we have 1 by 2 for one curve and greater than or equal to 1 for every other curve. So therefore, epsilon L x1, x2 is 1 by 2. So this is true for all x1, x2. Okay. So, and you can, I'll do one more example, just R3, R equal to 3. This is where you can see some interesting behavior now. If you take 3 points, so if you take a line, so not collinear. So this is case 1. Non-collinear, then the line, if you take a line through 2 of them, Seshadri ratio will be 1 divided by multiplicity at 1 point. This point is 1, at this point is also 1, but at this point it is 0. So you get 1 plus 1 plus 0, so 1 by 2. And one can check that, in fact, so I'll simply write x1, x2, x3. Similar to the previous case, you can check that for any other curve, it will be at least 1 by 2. So case 2, x1, x2, x3 are collinear. So here you have a line containing all of them. So then you can clearly see that the Seshadri ratio for L, this line, is 1 by 3 because its degree is 1 and multiplicities at each of the points is 1. So it is 1 plus 1 plus 1. And for every other curve, it will be at least, in fact, 1 by 2. So in fact, epsilon in this case. So in summary, what we have is, if you have 2 points, I'm omitting both the variety and the line bundle from this notation for simplicity. So this is 1 by 2 if x1, x2, x3 are non-collinear. 1 by 3 if they're collinear. Okay, so as one can check here, so this is a general condition. This is special condition. So this is a feature of Seshadri constants. So if you look at triples of points, if you take a general triple of points in P2, Seshadri constant is bigger than what you get if you take a special configuration of 3 points. Okay, so I will just summarize the other values which one can prove, and I want to end this discussion with a conjecture. So as you can see, things can become small at special points, and in the case of 3 points, there are only 2 possibilities. Either it is not collinear or collinear. But as you can imagine, for more number of points, you have various kinds of special configurations. Maybe you have 4 points, in which case 3 are collinear, the 4th one is outside that line, or all 4 are collinear, in which case you'll get a different value. So to simplify all this, we will, it just becomes more tricky to compute Seshadri constant in all these, numerous cases. So I'll assume that are general without really defining what that means. So just, intuitively, it means that if you look at collection of R tuples of points of X, there is an open set on which the statements I'm about to write hold. Okay. So if R equal to 4, okay, so then I want to give specific values for some small values of R. So as we saw, it is 1 for R equal to 1, 1 by 2 for R equal to 2 and 3. This is what I've computed. But R equal to 4 also, one can check it is 1 by 2. It is 2 by 5 for R equal to 5 and 6. And 5 is basically, if you take 5 general points, there is a conic through them, the degree 2 curve, which gives you 2 by 5. And one can check that there is no other value smaller than that. So 3 by 8 if it is 7. Okay, so I'm running out of space here. 6 by 17 if R equal to 8. So again, I want to stress here that it is for general points. You can always pick points in a way that this becomes smaller. For example, if you pick 8 points on a line, the Seshadri constant will be 1 by 8, which is much smaller than 6 by 8, 17. So I have to assume that if they are general. So I'll squeeze one more value here. Okay, so 1/3 for r equal to 9. And this gives me an opportunity. I did all this to, so essentially Nagata computed these values, though proving this is not particularly difficult. And of course, when Nagata did this, there was no notion of Seshadri constant. He was looking at, plane linear systems of plane curves. Nagata conjecture says that if x1 through xr are very general points, so this is, again, I don't want to get into this. I just want to write that because of, technical, there will be some technical issues otherwise. If they are very general points, then okay. So here r is at least 9. So this is not true. I mean, if r is less than 9, if you can, as you can see from this. So this is a conjecture in Nagata. This is around 1958. Nagata proved in the same paper where he made this conjecture for points of the form s is an integer and r is a square, and used this for his counter example to Hilbert's 14th problem. Okay, so he was mainly interested in producing a counterexample to Hilbert's 14th problem, which which is about the finite generation of invariant subgroups. So it doesn't look like this has anything to do with it, but it is a brilliant idea that he had to connect these things. So using this, he gave the counterexample. But even now, which is what, 60 years since that time, this is open for every other value of meaning it is true for 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, and so on. But for every other value, in particular for r equal to 10, which is the first open case. So Nagata conjecture is open for all non-square values. Okay, so let me, so just to give you, there is a lot of work on Seshadri constants. I'll soon come to the motivation. Yeah, maybe I will say this at the time. So, okay, so that is just a basic introduction. I don't have time to really give any more interesting examples, but Seshadri constant is this, and I wanted to first connect this to a well-known conjecture, which is Nagata conjecture. So now let me just quickly talk about some motivation on why, motivation for defining these Seshadri constants. Okay, so the Seshadri constants were defined by Demai in some, around 1990. So he was interested in what is called Fujita conjecture, which is a famous conjecture in algebraic geometry, which is open in general even today. But this conjecture was the motivating problem for Demai. So let me just state this because this is an important conjecture. So X is smooth projective variety. Dimension of X is n. L is ample. So over C, I assume. So this conjecture is only for complex varieties. So, and let's say Kx is the canonical bundle. So then the Fujita conjecture has two statements. So the first statement is that Kx plus n plus 1 L is globally generated. And the second statement is that kx plus n plus 2l is very ample. Okay, so of course, once it is so for n plus 1, these are called adjoint bundles. Once this is true for n plus 1, it is true for any number bigger than n plus 1. Similarly, once this is true for n plus 2, it is true for any number bigger than n plus 2. So this is a conjecture that existed, for several years. And Demai, in this 1990 paper in which he defined Seshadri constants, he proved this very important result. So XL as above, meaning X is a smooth projective variety or complex numbers, dimension n, L is ample. Then he defines Seshadri constants for the express purpose of proving this result. So if Seshadri constant is at least or strictly more than n by n plus 1 for every point, then k plus n plus 1 L is globally generated. Okay, and if it is strictly bigger than 2n by n plus 2, this is very ample. Okay, so as you can see, the conclusions are what Fujita gives. Fujita asks. Fujita conjecture asks this. So Demai defined Seshadri constants and proved that if there is a bound on Seshadri constants like this, Fujita conjecture is true. So then the hope was that Fujita conjecture can be reduced to proving these bounds on Seshadri constants. But unfortunately, this approach doesn't work. So basically, Seshadri constants do not satisfy these lower bounds. Okay, so this is Miranda. Very soon, I think in few years, 1993 or so, after this paper of Demai, essentially showed that Seshadri constants can be arbitrarily small. So given any positive real number, there exists a triple. I'll simply write like this. So X is a smooth projective surface. L is an ample bundle on that surface. X is a point such that, okay, so you can clearly see that you can never prove something like this, because if n is 2, this will be 2 by 3, and this will be 4 by 6, right? So which is not the case, because Seshadri constants can be arbitrarily small. So of course, this approach to Fujita cannot work. And further illustration of that is Fujita conjecture, in fact, is true for dimension 2. Even before all this. So these statements are true, but these statements are false. So the approach to proving Fujita conjecture cannot be successful. However, Seshadri constants are interesting in their own right. So that is what people have discovered. So, and one of the first illustrations of this. So a lot of action actually took place in the early 90s, soon after Demai proved this. So while Miranda showed that Seshadri constants can be arbitrarily small, Hein and Lazarsfeld proved in the same time. In fact, Miranda's example is in their paper. That's where Miranda's example appears. They showed that while it can be very small, it cannot be small at general points. Okay, so Hein and Lazarsfeld showed that if X is a smooth projective surface, L is ample, then epsilon XLX is at least 1 for all but possibly so outside a potentially countable set, Seshadri constant is always at least 1. Okay, so he proved this. So it is of course not useful with reference to Fujita conjecture, but it is an interesting statement. So there is a dichotomy in the behavior of Seshadri constant at general points and at special points. So at general points, a very general point is precisely one which is outside a countable set. Seshadri constant is at least 1. Whereas at special points, it can be very small as you like. So this is of course illustrated also in this case for triples. 3 special points, it's smaller than 3 general points. Of course, unlike in those examples, here I'm looking at single point Seshadri constant. So it is at least 1 always. So this led to a lot of work on Seshadri constants, and people were interested in Seshadri constants essentially for their own, their own intrinsic importance. So, and starting around this time, most of the work okay, so is on surfaces. Okay, so that's where we know most information about Seshadri constants. Though in higher dimension, meaning 3 folds and higher, results are known, but for only some special classes of variety. So I don't want to spend too much time sort of giving you a survey, but let me just orally say that for surfaces, lots of results are known in each, Codera class of surfaces. There is a Codera classification of surfaces, Codera dimension 0, -infinity, 0, 1, 2. In each case, whenever we have K3 surfaces or abelian surfaces, Henriques surfaces, rational surfaces, surfaces of general type, there are general results that are known. In higher dimensions, only results are known in specific cases like abelian varieties or toric varieties, Fano varieties, Grassmann bundles or curves or Court schemes or flag varieties. So many of these are very special classes of varieties. So in general, we don't know much about these cases, higher dimension. So though that is changing slowly, people are now working on higher dimensions. So I want to spend maybe a few minutes on connecting this to Waldschmidt constants, especially because I know that these appeared in several talks in this commutative algebra seminar series in the past. So I don't want to spend a lot of time defining these, but I will give you a quick definition. But then my main motivation in defining them is to give you a connection to Seshadri constants. So Waldschmidt constant, so this is, the setup is the same. You have projective, the coordinate of the projective space. So let's look at the polynomial ring in n variables or n plus 1 variables. And these are defined for any homogeneous ideal. Though for the purposes of what I want to talk about, my main interest is in the case of ideals of finite sets of points of Pn. But just I want to give the definition for any positive integer. We have the symbolic power. So this is called nth symbolic power. So this is defined using, so sort of you take regular power of I, nth power of I, extend it to the localization and then contract. And you do this for all minimal primes of the ideal. and you take the intersection. So this is the mth symbolic power. We are mainly interested in. So these of course make sense in general for any homogeneous ideal, but my main interest is, so you take Z as before. So we take a finite set of points and we take the ideal of those points, which is of course going to be an ideal in homogeneous ideal in the polynomial ring. So in this case, IM has a very geometric interpretation. This is called Zariski-Nagata theorem. It is simply the ideal generated by polynomials or forms vanishing up to order m at each xi. Of course, this, by the way, is not just for zero-dimensional varieties. This always, I mean, even if Z is, even in this case, one can say something like this. Z is simply taken to be the zero set of that ideal. Okay, but I want to stick to this. So this is the ideal generated by forms that vanish at up to order m at each of the xi's. So in this case, it simply happens to be, so this is simply the ideal of the first point power m1. So this is the ideal of forms generated by forms which vanish at the point x1 up to order m. So in this case, this is a very simple description of the symbolic power. So then one is interested in, so this, as this was mentioned, and this came up in several talks in this series, as I said. So there are some obvious inclusions. So you have the usual power, the regular power is contained in this, but in general, this is a strict inequality, strict inclusion, and there are a lot of containment results and conjectures, which is an important area in commutative algebra. So, and one of those important conjectures or questions is related to this Wald-Schmidt constant. Wald-Schmidt constant, you can in general define it for ideals. In our situation, we can think of it as of Z, because I want to connect this to the Seshadri constant of Z, is defined as, so I'll write it here. So alpha check I and this alpha check Z, depending on your perspective, is simply the limit as you go to infinity. I realize that I haven't defined something here. I will do that now, which is also the infimum. Okay, so let me define that here. So alpha I is the initial degree. So this is the minimum. So maybe I cannot write it here. So here alpha I is the minimum f is in I non-zero. So it is the minimal degree. So if you, for example, write I as a direct sum of its homogeneous pieces, it is the first term in that decomposition. Or you look at the degrees of all polynomials, all homogeneous polynomials in I, and take the smallest degree. And geometrically, there is a description of alpha check, which is what we are mainly interested in. So geometrically, alpha check of Z is actually nothing but, if you recall, I used earlier this situation where X, in this case Pn, is a blow up of Z. And let's say H is the pullback of O1. And EI are the pullbacks of the points. So in this setup, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at the least degree form that vanishes at all the points on Z up to up to order n. So that means this is infimum. Okay, so this is n by m. Sorry, so I'll just move it to the left. So m is any integer, n is the degree of, so this is, I'll write this like this, nh minus so this is really saying that this linear system, the global sections of this line bundle, I'll not write this, I'll just say it orally. The global sections of this line bundle they correspond to degree n hypersurfaces in the projective space which pass through the points with multiplicity m. Okay, and that's precisely what this number is. Okay, so we take this is the geometric description, and I'll recall for you the Seshadri constant. So the Seshadri constant, because the variety and the line bundle here are clear, variety is the projective space, line bundle is O1. I'll just write epsilon z, where z is the set of points. Okay, so epsilon z is actually the supremum, if you recall, of all t, such that h minus okay, so you can take whatever, I mean, what this means to you, but essentially the Waldschmidt constant and Seshadri constants have some relation because of this. So you want some kind of interaction between effective cone and the Neff cone of the blow-up. So of course you can replace this by NH, I mean, this is effective if and only if H minus M by N is effective. In the rational cone, nothing, these are equivalent statements. So it is really asking for something being Neff and something being effective. And sure enough, there is a relation between the two, which I'll write now. I can't prove this. It is a fact that Seshadri constant and Waldschmidt constant are related by, are connected by this statement. Let's see. So where did I write this? Okay. So okay, so this is epsilon z power n minus 1. Okay. The n minus 1th power of the Seshadri constant is equal to the Waldschmidt constant divided by R. Okay. So now I have already mentioned the Nagata conjecture, which is for points in the projective plane P2. So there is a Nagata type conjecture which is stated in terms of Waldschmidt constant, which can be translated to a statement about Nagata conjecture. So I'll simply say that for I mean the setup is as before, where I is the ideal of, okay, so let's say I is the ideal of R.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the fact, the points are generic?
Yeah, so I think that is correct. Yeah. So I was putting it here, but here also I have to say this. So in this, yeah, thank you. So if Z consists of very general points. Okay. So here also very general points. Yeah, thank you. That's correct. So the Nagata type conjecture is that it is actually nth root of R. So this is, you can think of this as a generalization of the Nagata, classical Nagata conjecture for higher dimensional projective spaces. So of course you can, using this equality, you can rephrase this in terms of Seshadri constant, and just like in the plane dimension 2 case, the above conjecture is known when R in the dimension 2 case, when R was a square, it was known. In this case, it is known when R is equal to S power n. So when R is an nth power of another integer, it is known, but it is open for other integers. Okay, so this is the, yeah, so let me say this. I think, yeah, so I should be a bit careful here. Okay, so I don't quite know this, when this happens, but I definitely should say this for R large enough. Remember in Nagata conjecture also, it is not true in general. It is only true for R greater than or equal to 9. Yeah, so this is important. I should have mentioned this in the beginning itself. So this is true for R large enough. And for large enough power, nth powers, it is known. Okay, so there is a lot of work on symbolic powers. I mean, there are conjectures, you know, Eloise talked about Harborne conjecture. There are lots of containment results. There is Chudnovsky's conjecture on which a lot of work is being done. So all those are studied for Wald-Schmidt constants, and this is the relation between Wald-Schmidt and Seshadri constants. Okay. Okay, so this, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask me. So I think I've done 3. Okay, so I have another maybe 18 minutes or so. So let me just introduce some open questions. There are lots of them, but I want to just specify some important ones and then lead on to some recent results. So one of the foundational results that I mentioned in the case of surfaces was proved by Ein and Lazarsfeld, who showed that for a very ample line bundle on a surface, Seshadri constant at a general point is at least 1. So now there is a similar, there is a generalization of that for higher dimensions. So this is called Lazarsfeld's conjecture. So this is X smooth projective variety. L is ample. So then epsilon Lx is at least 1 for a very general X. So this is proved by Ein and Lazarsfeld in when dimension of X is 2, but open in general. Okay. So again, just like in the same spirit of what I said earlier, in higher dimensions, there are no general results. Okay, at least not proving the conjecture, but there are results in specific classes of varieties. For example, there are results for toric varieties, Fano varieties, and so on. So, however, there is a result by, which maybe I should mention in this context. In general, we have so much weaker than the conjectured bound, but we do have something. So it is 1 by dimension X for X general. So this is, of course, even for surfaces, there is, this is not the strongest result we know, because surfaces, it is greater than or equal to 1, not 1 by 2, as this would say. But in general, this is the best one can say. For 3-dimensional varieties, there are better results. But again, I don't want to write too many specific problems. So let me just broadly, my goal is to broadly introduce some problems. Another important question that people think about, and there is not much that is known, is there a triple XLX? As always, X is a smooth projective variety, L is an ample line bundle, and small x is a point, so I won't write it again, such that the Seshadri constant is irrational. So now this is strongly suspected to be true, but we don't know. We don't know of a single example where this happens. So I will come back at the end to say something more about this. One more question is, for a projective variety X, define the Seshadri constant of X itself to be, you look at all ample line bundles on X and all points on X, and you take the Seshadri constant. So by the way, I should have mentioned in the section where I talked about motivation. So maybe I can squeeze that here. So Demai, this is something I mentioned in my abstract, so I should definitely mention it here. Demai was motivated by this Seshadri criterion for ampleness, which was stated differently, of course, because this was in 1960s. But in the language of Seshadri constants, if it turns out to be this, L is ample, so L is some Neff line bundle on a projective variety, if and only if the Seshadri constant is positive for all X. Okay, so this is the Seshadri criteria for ampleness. So here we are interested in looking at Seshadri constants for ample line bundle. So each of these numbers is positive, but the infimum can be possibly 0, right? So the question is, can epsilon X be 0 for some X? So for example, is there a surface on which Seshadri constant, there's a sequence of line bundles and points such that Seshadri constants go to 0. Note that Miranda constructed examples where Seshadri constants are arbitrarily small, but he does not work on a single surface. Given a delta, he constructs X. So for another delta, there will be a different X. So that construction doesn't answer this question. But this is an interesting question that I think, it would be interesting to know the answer to this. One more important class of varieties, let's say XD is degree D hypersurface. So I think this is believed to be true. So this is sort of folklore conjecture, is if let D be at least 5 and let XD be a very general hypersurface of degree D. So it's a very general hypersurface of degree D in P3. Then epsilon XD OXD1, so the hyperplane bundle at X is actually root D for all X. So this, by the way, gives also potentially an answer to the second problem here, if you can prove this. So this you exhibit irrational Seshadri constants. One more question I want to write, because this is an important area now people are working on. Seshadri constants can also be defined for vector bundles. So these are not just rank 1 vector bundles for which it is, that's what we have been discussing. Okay, so you can define vector bundle Seshadri constants for vector bundles. So I don't want to get into the definition because it requires quite a bit of notation, but Christopher Hakon defined them and studied these vector bundles on curves in detail. And recently, Fulger and Murayama generalized Hakon's definition and proved a lot of results analogous to the line bundle case. Okay, so I don't have any concrete problem here that I can write, but there are many questions, I'll simply say. So one tries to ask similar questions that one has for line bundles. So something like Seshadri criterion. So there is also notion of ample vector bundles. So that, for example, I mean that of course that particular one has been proved by Fulgar Murayama in terms of Seshadri constants of the vector bundles. But there are many other jet separation, the original motivation of Demai. So there are many questions here that partially have to do with generalizing the results for vector line bundles. Okay, so now I have another maybe 10 minutes. So finally, I want to talk quickly about some rationality questions. Rationality of Seshadri constants, or rather irrationality of Seshadri constants. So my goal is to sort of conjecturally exhibit some irrational Seshadri constants. So there is, okay, so I have to decide now how much I want to say here. But so in this last part, I want to restrict my attention to this situation. Let X be a blow up of P2 at, let's say, R general points. Okay. So I'm going to call it XR. Okay. So there is a conjecture. This is called this conjecture is very easy to state, so I'll state it. So minus one curves conjecture is the following. If C is a -1 curve, so that is C is a smooth rational curve and C square is -1. So its self-intersection is -1 and C is isomorphic to P1. So then, sorry, so that is not the conjecture. The conclusion is that it is a -1 curve. So if C is a negative curve, so that is C is irreducible and C square is less than 0, then C is a -1 curve, which I have written. C is P1 and C square is -1. So this conjecture is basically saying that every curve of negative self-intersection on this blow up is a -1 curve. For example, it must have self-intersection -1 and it must be rational. And this is connected to the Nagata conjecture. So this is an easy fact. -1 curves conjecture for XR implies Nagata conjecture for R points. Remember, Nagata conjecture is a statement for R points. So -1 curves conjecture is known for XR, then Nagata conjecture is true. So it is stronger than Nagata conjecture. And there is another remark here which I want to state. There is a more general conjecture called the SHGH conjecture. So this is named after 4 people: Segre, Hershowitz, Gimigliano, and Harborn, who all independently formulated this conjecture. So let me write down the years. Okay, so I can't find it here. So let's see. Okay, so these are, there is all of them independently formulated this. And I don't have time to do this, this is about plane curves, linear systems of plane curves. So I just want to, because I want to set up our result. So I'm doing this. I apologize for not giving too many details. So -1 curves conjecture implies Nagata, as I already indicated. SHGH conjecture is a stronger version. So it implies -1 curves conjecture. And the reason that I stated that is there was a theorem by Tumnitsky and Koronia, MacLean and Zemberg. So this is 2016. So they essentially proved the following. So let R be at least 9, and suppose SHGH conjecture is true for R plus 1 point. Then there exists an ample line bundle L on XR. XR is a blow up of R general points. Such that epsilon XR LX is not rational for a very general point. Okay, so they assume this conjecture and exhibit an irrational Seshadri constant. I mean, it's not really exhibiting because it's conjectural, but at least they give a recipe. And with Harbon, we proved that the same result as above. So maybe I can copy this. So instead of SHGH, so -1 curves conjecture is sometimes called actually weak SHGH conjecture because it is sort of weaker than that. So if -1 curves conjecture is true for R plus 1 points, then there exists an ample line bundle on the R point block for which Seshadri constant is irrational. Okay, so this is an improvement of their result, but still conjectural. And the question is, can the same result, this is an open question, be proved? Can the same result be proved assuming Nagata conjecture? Because Nagata conjecture is weaker than this also. And it has the added advantage that Nagata conjecture actually is known in some cases. For example, when it is R is 16, it is known. So if you can answer this question in the affirmative, we actually concretely exhibit irrational Seshadri constants. And then I will end by saying that in more recent work with, so let me just take one more minute. So these are Farnik, Huizinga, Schmidt, and Zemberg. So all of us, we showed that we formulated a even stronger conjecture than SHGH and showed that if that conjecture is true, so the same type of setup for R plus 1 points. So we basically can remove this. So if that stronger conjecture is true, if that holds for r+1 points, then they have the same. Then there exists an ample line bundle L on XR such that epsilon X L XR LX is not rational for every X. So not just general X. So the earlier conjectures were for general points. Earlier results were for general points, but of course we need a stronger statement, and that I don't have time to describe, but it is a strong SHGH conjecture. So that implies SHGH. So with this conjecture and this conjecture, you have irrational Seshadri constants at general points. With this, we have irrational Seshadri constants at arbitrary points. And this is an open question for Nagata. Okay, so let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us all thank Krishna for his excellent talk. Yeah. So, are there any questions? You can open your audio and video and.
So, can Waldschmidt constant be defined for non-algebraically closed field?
Yeah, so there is nothing in the definition which requires algebraically closed field, I think. But I don't know if they will be well behaved. Perhaps, I don't know. I have not seen I've not seen a lot of work on, in general, Seshadri constants for arbitrary fields. There is a lot of work for characteristic positive, that I should say. But in general, for non-algebraically closed fields, I'm not sure. There is some work, I think, because there is some number theory connection to this, and one looks at number fields and so on, but I am not fully familiar with it.
And while defining Seshadri constant for vector bundles, have you assumed something about the vector bundles? Because for line bundles, we had something naifness or something like that.
Correct. So one has to assume the same. So for vector bundles, one looks at the projective bundle of that vector bundle and looks at the O1 of it, right? So if you have PE over X, so then you have O1. So Seshadri constants of E are defined in terms of O1. So you need to assume this is Nef. That is the definition of E being Nef.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Hello. What about the irrationality of the Waldschmidt constant? Is the same equivalent?
So you can see the equation I wrote here.
Yeah.
So I think most of the time, if this is irrational, this would also be rational. So I believe there is no example of irrational Waldschmidt constant also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're equivalent in some sense by this equation.
I don't know if this will be equivalent, because this could be n-1th root of 3. I mean, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
So it can be, but generally you would expect that these are irrational if and only if the other is irrational. Not always.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Krishna, I have a general question. So we defined Waldschmidt constant in terms of symbolic powers, the minimum degree of generators.
Yeah.
So if we replace symbolic powers with, say, filtration of integral closure powers, one can define a similar limit. Perhaps
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, I think it should work.
Yeah. Does it have, I mean, is this also studied?
No, I don't know. Not as far as I know. So
It could have
But-
geometric analog too, or
possibly, yes. I would think that also would have some geometric implication, and possibly people have studied. So I have not seen it though.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions? All right, if not, thank you all for attending this seminar, and let us again thank Krishna for his very interesting talk.
Thank you.
We will meet next Friday for a lecture by Ritvik Ramkumar from Berkeley, and he will be talking about Hilbert schemes in general. So we hope you all can join next week. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye bye.